What's going on, y'all? It's your guy Chase Johnson, aka 500 CJ.
Dark side.
And today I want to talk about something that I have always thought about since I was a jit, man, since I was a little boy. Like, what does it mean to be a man? And this is something I've always thought about, but recently I had a brother of mine, love him to death, man, call me. And he was telling me about some issues he's been having, right? And this, to kind of drill home what I'm talking about before I get into it, I'm gonna play this Mike Tyson clip of him talking about like his not having this edge anymore that he used to have, right?
War, that's all I ever studied. That's why I'm so feared. That's why they feared me when I was in the ring. Because that's all I was an annihilator. That's all I was born for. And now those days are gone. It's empty. I'm nothing. I'm working on being the art of humbleness. Can you believe in me? That's the reason why I'm crying, because I'm not that person no more. And I miss him. Because sometimes I feel like a bitch. Because I don't want that person to come out, because if he comes out, hell is coming with him. And it's not funny at all. It must sound cool, like I'm a tough guy. It's just, I hate that guy. I'm scared of him.
The line in there that really speaks to me is like, I feel like a bitch, right? And to me, it's like worth addressing why he feels that way, or why men feel that way, right? And all men feel it, but I think just because I'm black, I can relate to it in a certain way. If you're not a fighter, aggressive, a shooter, or highly emotional, right? When it, I guess you could say it calls for it to be that way, we'll say you're not a man, or you a bitch, right? And I used to kind of subscribe to that myself, but why, right? Why does that define what a man is, right? I think a man has to be able to be violent. I think it's necessary to protect, to serve your families, stand up for what you believe in. It might take you to die or fight and die, right? I believe as a man you have to be able to do that. But like this idea that that's the mainstay of what a man is has always perplexed me. Because I've been drunk before, I've been fought before, I've been in so many, I can't keep counting how many fights I've been in. I never felt like a guy wasn't a man if he didn't fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never felt like I needed my friend to be able to fight or be able to shoot. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though a lot of my friends were, but they were able to do those things, but it was never a necessity for me to say he was a man, right? I believe a man is a guy that stands on moral and principles and believes in God and tries his best to do the right thing. A man that is striving to be better and disciplined. Like, that's what I believe a man is. But, we struggle with this idea, like, provide and protect and serve. And I think all of those things could be considered, things that a man should do. I'm not against that. But this idea that we are just limited to service or violence is always been perplexing to me, because I know men that have never been in a physical altercation in their life, and I respect them as men. And my brother was like, I was in this certain situation where these guys that I knew from back in the day saw me at an event, and it kind of played on my name a little bit. He was bullied when he was in school. He told me this story. He's actually talked about these stories publicly. I'm just not gonna say his name. If he wanna say it in the comments or whatever, he can do that. But he talked about being bullied, so when he went to this event, he was already nervous about it. And then the guys that were there kind of hinted at some of the things that they did to him back in the day and talked to him a certain way, and he called me and talked about it, and it was like, I felt like I should have said something and whoop. And I addressed where he was coming from a few different angles. The first angle, I was like, well, you probably should say something. Like, it doesn't have to be something where you gotta be gangster or say something disrespectful. If they say, what's up, little bro? They be like, hey man, I'm grown, bro. And leave it at that. Not I'm grown, bitch, I ain't know who the fuck you talking to. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an emotional reaction, not a logical response. Shout out to Sinful to Pete, rest in peace. But you wanna be able to logically respond instead of emotionally react. I think a lot of the times we think a man is a guy that will go to violence quickly. And what we don't understand a lot of times is the guy that does that is usually very emotional. When you have a leader, when you have a man that's supposed to protect and put things in perspective, you want him to be logical. You don't want him to be overly emotional. So I would tell him, you could have said something, but you didn't have to be disrespectful, but probably saying nothing could have been a good solution too, because you gotta think about when you say something, you can't just think about what you say. You gotta think about what their reaction is gonna be. And let's say their reaction is to go violent, to get disrespectful. Are you ready for that? Because not everybody is. Like, I've always said I'm passive aggressive. I get aggressive when I get pushed to a limit. It's like, cause somebody gonna have to feel it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta be pushed to that point. When I was younger, I snapped. I would pop off, you know what I'm saying? But as I've gotten more spiritually aligned with God and doing things the right way, I learned that it's not necessary. And the more I learn how to communicate effectively, the less drama I've had. I'm not perfect. I've just had drama last year where I had to get physical with somebody. You know what I'm saying? But that's not where I wanted it to go. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, there's a certain ways you can look at this stuff. But I wanted to talk about this because I think a lot of men struggle with the idea that you have to be some savage, right? But I don't think that's true. But I'll tell you what I do think is true. The person I heard say this quote was Joe Rogan.
Can't be weak. And in this country, being weak is thought of as a virtue. Yeah. Jordan Peterson has a really interesting way of looking at this. And he said it to me once, and it made a lot of sense. He said, people think that you should be weak and you should be docile and then you should be a pacifist. He goes, no, you should be a monster. He said you should be a monster, you should be ruthlessly ambitious, and then learn how to control it. And it's that old expression, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. It's an old expression, but it makes sense.
And what I took that to mean was, you want to be able to protect and fight and go to war if necessary. But there's nothing wrong with being a gardener. This idea in this world that we live in is that weak is the better thing to be, or always docile or less confrontational at all times is the best thing to be. There's yin and yang, where there's a balance to this thing. And you can't always pop off, but sometimes you might have to. Because I've been in situations, bro, where the people I was dealing with, I'll never forget. I was in a situation, I was younger. I was in a situation with these guys that was claiming a certain set, right? And it was only a couple of me and my guys, right? And these guys were just not gonna be reasonable, right? But I had to find a way to be reasonable. So words getting exchanged, and I'm talking to one guy. The guys around are talking, kind of beefing each other up and throwing up signs. I'm not really I'm paying attention to the guy I think is more logical. So I'm talking to him. And I'm like, bro, what's the problem, bro? You know what I'm saying? Woo. Come to find out, the problem was about a girl, right? And they were riding with him because basically, like, I don't know if y'all understand gangs and stuff like that, but like, it's like an idea you gotta put in work for somebody and don't even really know what the problem is. You just go do it because that's my guy. I don't have that mentality, but as I'm talking to this man, I can't tell the full story because he got gangster, right? But there are situations where you realize, like, I gotta go and take a swing, I gotta go and shoot my gun, because if I don't, I'm gonna die, or I'm gonna get seriously, you know what I'm saying, hurt. So it's like you have to learn how to decipher these situations. Sometimes it ain't no time for reason. Sometimes you gotta just get up out of the situation. And sometimes a simple conversation, I've had simple conversations with guys that I thought I had an issue with. And when I talk to them man to man, testosterone, nose to nose, he didn't really want no problems. He was getting hyped up by other people. And I think it makes you more of a man if you're quick to go to logic and understanding and reasoning before you jump out the window. That's what I try to practice. So I don't think it makes you more of a man to be illogical and irrational. But sometimes you want to be the gardener. You want to be able to garden. You want to be able to be peaceful, because that's the best route most of the time. But sometimes the best route ain't the route that's going to work in a situation. But you want to be able to do it. So in my opinion, it makes you more of a man when you can rely on more than logic or emotion. You have a connection to the Most High, the Creator, and have an understanding of the world you live in. A man that is that way is a man to me. That's a man that can really make change. That can really do positive things in the world. So that's just my opinion. Like, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, but I don't think a man has to always resort to violence. That would be, to me, toxic masculinity. A person that thinks you're not a man if you don't do that. I think you're lacking as a man if you're not capable of protecting yourself or what you believe in your family. But some things ain't worth it. I told my partner, I said, look, man, sometimes it's better to say nothing. Because especially if the person is illogical or irrational or super emotional, you're gonna waste your time and put yourself in a position you don't even need to be in. So I said, you might have just avoided BS conflict and go home to be a man to your family. Fuck looking like a man in front of this person that's probably not a man himself. You see what I'm saying? So I just think men need to just kind of consider that, and black men especially, like, being so quick to go to violence, bro, it's gonna always end up bad if you always are quick to go that way. I have lost 4 people in a year and a half to violence. And I know a couple of them was with the bullshit, bro, quickly. And that's how they were brought up. But it served them horribly in the end, and now they're not here for their children. So I just implore people to just, brothers, to like think, get to know yourself, get to know God, and you'll learn how to make the right decisions. Because God promised us a certain amount of years on this life if we move the way he told us to. So that's all I gotta say, bro. So anyway, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell so you get all my content as soon as it drops. And with that being said, I'm gonna catch y'all with the next video, man. It's your guy Chase Johnson, aka 5100 CJ. I will catch you with the next video. You dig.